Yeah, good afternoon, students. In the previous class, we had a discussion regarding how these IO devices are get connected to the processor, and as well as we had the discussion regarding the synchronous and asynchronous interfaces and IO parallel and serial IO ports. So, how the data will be transmitted in synchronous manner and as well as in asynchronous manner. So now today we would like to discuss regarding this IO devices, which different IO devices which can be connected to the different types of ports. So now I would like to share my screen. So is my screen is visible? So now the today's topic for discussion is what we are calling it as the interconnection standards. That is IO devices we can connect using different types of ports. Just now we had in the previous class discussion. So we are going to discuss about the different standards which can be used for connection of these different types of IO devices. So that is one of the important standards we are going to discuss in this today's classroom discussion topic. That is universal serial bus, which we are calling it as in short USB. We are calling it as. So there are other remaining standards, interconnection standards are there that we will discuss SCSI and SATA, etc., where these disk drives can be connected to the system with different types of standards that we will discuss in the next classroom discussion topic. So this is what the USB Universal Serial Bus, that is the topic for the today's discussion, and this session will develop the students knowledge on how the functionality of USB is, universal serial bus is. So the one of the important interconnection standard that is used by the typical desktop computers or notebook computers where we have several IO ports are there. So we are connecting different IO devices to these several IO ports, like such as mouse we are connecting, memory card we are connecting, hard disk drive we are connecting. By making use of different types of IO ports, we are connecting different IO devices. We are connecting that. So these particular IO ports will have some standards. It will follow that. So one of the important standard is the USB port, that is the universal serial bus port, that we will discuss. So the standard interfaces have been developed to enable these IO devices to use these interfaces so that independent of a particular processor, independent of the processor, these particular universal IO ports can be used basically. So one of the important standard is universal serial bus, which is called as a USB. So a large variety of devices are available with a USB connector. So just if you take it as a mouse as well as this memory cards you take and disk drives you can take, printers, cameras, and many more devices will have the capability here, will have the facility to connect to this computer via the universal serial bus. That is what USB we can call it as. So the original USB specification, if you see that it supports two different types of speeds. So the low speed USB is operated at 1.5 megabits per second, and the full speed USB which will operate at 12 megabits per second. This is the data transfer rate. Just you can remember that. So 1.5 megabits per second low speed USB devices supports, and 12 megabits per second the high speed USBs will support. So even later, this USB specification has improved to achieve more than this 12 megabits per second speed. That is what we are calling it as USB 2 standard. So which is a high speed USB which operates and which supports 480 megabits per second. So that is the USB 2 standard. But basically this is comes under USB 1 standard. So this is a USB 2 standard, which is a high speed USBs, which operates at 480 megabits per second speed. So even the third standard is also there, USB 3 standard, which is called it as a super speed USBs, so which operates at 5 gigabits per second. Fine. So that is how we are improving this universal serial bus basically. So the USB has been designed to meet several key objectives. So the main important objective is that it should provide a simple, low cost and easy to use interconnection system. That is the main objective of using this USB. So that you can make use of a wide variety of IO devices that can be connected, and bit rates like internet connection if you take it as, and audio video applications if you take it as, it should support the data transmission rate should be more high, that is in gigabits per second it should be there. So to enhance user convenience, so that another important thing is that, which is very important feature, plug and play feature. So that is a plug and play mode of operation should be provided, so that we are achieving this plug and play facility with this USB capability. So these are the important device characteristics. So the kind of device that may be connected to a computer will cover a wide range of functionalities. So like the speed, volume and the timing constraints. Speed, volume and timing constraints are associated with the data transfer to and from these devices are very significant. So that is the important thing here. So whatever the devices which we are connecting, the devices will vary in the speed of transmission and how much amount of data, volume of data we are transmitting, and the timing constraints. Okay, so that is these are the two important characteristics that the device characteristics we have to consider when we are performing the data transfer. So in case of a keyboard, for example, if you take it as, so we are transmitting 1 byte of data because we are pressing a key on the keyboard. So that key, one key is stored in 8 bits of information. So 8 bits is called it as a byte. So 1 byte of is generated when you are pressing a key on the keyboard. So which may happen at any time. So at any point of time, you can press a key on the keyboard. Once you press a key on the keyboard, so 8 bits of data, 1 byte of data is generated. So these data should be transferred to the computer promptly at whatever the time you are pressing the key, that particular during that particular time, the key 8 bits of data has to be transmitted. Okay, so since the event of pressing a key is not synchronized to any other event in a computer system, so the data generated by the keyboard are called asynchronous data. Okay, so the rate at which the data are generated is quite slow. So it is limited to the speed of human operator to about 10 bytes per second. So you can press 10 characters per second. So which is less than 100 bits per second. So 10 means 80 bits. So 10 characters maximum you can type. Fine. So that is one important thing, and many computers have a microphone either externally attached, or there is a built-in microphone will be there. So which will be used for picking of sound, as well as where it has to be, that voice has to be converted into analog electrical signal, which must be converted into a digital form before it can be handled by the computer. Fine. So that is another important device which we are making use of, this microphone. This is accomplished by sampling the analog signals periodically. So because you have to convert analog to digital, so there is a converter should be used, analog to digital converter should be used. So which can be used for generating n bits representing the magnitude of the sample. So the number of bits n is selected based on the desired precision with which to represent each signal, as well as the each sample. So when these data are sent to a speaker, a digital to analog converted, okay, D2A converter is used to restore the original analog signal from the digital format. So a similar approach is used with video information from the camera also. So when we are recording that video, when you want to transmit that video to the destination, so from the source to destination, when it is transmitted, so we require the converters, we require that. Okay, so the sampling process will yield a continuous stream of digitized samples that arrive at regular intervals, and it is synchronized with the sampling clock. So such a data stream is called it as isochronous data, meaning that successive events are separated by equal periods of time. Okay, so that is what audio and video type of data, when you are sampling that, this data will be successive periods, equal periods of time the data will be sampled basically. So the data transfers for images and video have similar requirements but require much higher data transfer rates are required. So to maintain the picture quality of a commercial television, for example, if you take it as an image should be represented by about 160 kilobytes and transmitted 30 times per second. So that is what we require basically. Nowadays, you are going to get it as high definition TVs. We are getting HD TVs. We are getting that, which requires still higher data rates are required for maintaining higher quality of the images. Right. So bit rate should be 44 megabits per second. So that we require a large storage devices such as magnetic or optical devices which presents different types of characteristics. Fine. So another important feature is that these USBs will provide a plug and play feature. So when an IO device is connected to a computer, the operating system needs to know that what type of device it is, so it can be use appropriate device driver. Okay. So it also needs to know the address of the registers in the devices interface to be enabled to communicate with that interface. So the USB standard defines both the USB hardware and the software that communicates with that. So its plug and play feature means that when a new device is connected, the system detects its existence automatically. That is what plug and play feature is that. So the software determines the kind of device and how to communicate with it, and as well as any special requirements it might require. So as a result, the user simply plugs in a USB device and begins to use it without having to get involved in any of these details. So these details are hide from the user perspective. So just user will feel that you are just plugging that device to the system, and you are then you are making use of it. Okay, the USB uses a point-to-point connections, and a serial transmission format will be used here. When multiple devices are connected, they are arranged in a tree-like structure. Basically, this is what we are calling it as a root hub. So which is this is a hub one, hub two, like that, hub three, like that. So we have these multiple hubs are there. For every IO device is connected to this hubs which will be connected. So these are IO devices are present at the root level, and the intermediate nodes are occupying it as the hubs, and these hubs are connected to a root hub, and this root hub will be present in the host computer system. So that is what USB architecture is basically, and each node of the tree has a device called as a hub, which acts as an intermediate transformer point. Okay, intermediate transfer point between the host computer and the IO device. So at the root of the tree, a root hub connects to the entire tree to the host computer. Fine. So every the leaves of the tree are the IO devices like a mouse or a keyboard, printer, and internet connection, a camera or a speaker, like that. So they will occupy at the root and at the leaf level. Okay, so the tree structure makes it possible to connect many devices using simple point-to-point serial links. That is why we are making use of the tree-like structure so that many devices can be IO devices can be connected in a point-to-point fashion. So if IO devices are allowed to send messages at any time, two messages may reach the hub at the same time and interface with each other. So the USB operates strictly on the basis of polling. So this is a polling is a mechanism used by this USB. So a device may send a message only in response to a poll message from the host processor. Hence, no two devices can send messages at the same time. This restriction allows hubs to be simple and low-cost devices. So each device on the USB is arranged assigned a 7-bit address. This address is local to the USB tree and is not related to any way to the processor address space. Fine. Every IO device which is connected will be assigned a 7-bit address. Okay. So the root hub of the USB, which is attached to the processor, appears as a single device. So the host software communicates with individual devices by sending information to the root hub, which it forwards to the appropriate device in the USB tree. So when a device is first connected to a hub, or when it is powered on, it has the address 0. So periodically the host polls each hub to collect status information and learns about new devices that may have been added or disconnected. So when the host is informed that a new device has been connected, it reads the information in a special memory in the device's USB interface to learn about the device's capabilities. So it then assigns the device a unique USB address and writes that address in the device interface registers. So it is this initial connection procedure that gives the USB its plug and play capability. Fine. So now this is a reflection spot. What is the role of root hub in the USB? Anyone? So what is the role of root hub in the USB? Because in USB we have seen that. So this is a root hub, and where this will be connected to the hubs basically. So we have these hubs, and this to these hubs multiple IO devices are connected. So the purpose of this root hub is that this root hub only it will have, be host computer. It will be there in the host computer. So everything the computer will be monitored with this root hub. So any IO device point to point to be get connected. So this will be get connected like this point to point. It will get connected from this device to the hub, corresponding hub to the root hub. From this root hub to this, okay, it will be connected in a point to point. So that is achieved through root hub in the tree structure. So this is what LOs revisited here. Lecture objectives are revisited here. So now the session will develop the knowledge on the functionality of the USB universal serial bus. So this is what the summary of this today's session. USB operates at different speeds that we have seen that. So we have USB 1, USB 2, USB 3 standards will be there. So USB 3 is a high speed super speed device, and USB architecture is a tree like structure, and it supports a plug and play feature. So the objective lecture outcomes is that after completion of this session the student will be able to know the functionality of the USB dial. So this is the lecture level practice problem. Summarize the functionality of USB device. Fine. So any doubts you have? So if you don't have any doubts, now I will stop this session. Okay. So thank you students. Thank you for joining.